We now come to the final scene of The Merchant of Venice, but what type of ending do we expect? As you can see from the title page to Shakespeare's first folio, printed in 1623, The Merchant of Venice is categorised as a comedy. Yet from what we know of the play so far, it's not the sort of comedy with which we might be familiar. The main reason is that comedy, in the sense it's being used here, does not focus on humour, although there may be some, but focuses on the convention of a comedy having a happy ending, with any disruptions to the social order being resolved. But from the very beginning of the final scene, the idea of a happy ending is subtly undermined. As I've spoken about in another video, Jessica, Shylock's daughter, has eloped with a Christian, Lorenzo. And as they talk in this scene on a moonlit night, it sounds beautiful and lyrical, repeating the refrain, "in such a night as this." But the content of their words concerns lovers who are unfaithful or who have failed each other in some way. I talk about this in another video, so I won't go into detail here, but the main point is that the scene starts with something that sounds positive but has an underlying sense of unease. In a previous video, I also talked about the fact that Bassanio is persuaded by Antonio to give his wedding ring to Balthasar the lawyer, as a way of saying thank you for outwitting Shylock and saving Antonio's life. But now, Portia wants to know where the ring is. Now, on one level, this part of the scene is very amusing, because we already know that Portia was disguised as Balthasar, so she already has the ring. What she wants to know is why Bassanio gave it away so easily. But this part of the scene also continues the sense of unease that we experienced when Lorenzo and Jessica were discussing unfaithful lovers in the opening lines. We begin to think about what commitments are really worth if they are so easily broken. And at the end of the scene, we find that it does not supply the full resolution of the issues that we might wish for in a comedy. For example, Antonio realises that he is the reason for these disputes. He says, "I am the unhappy subject of these quarrels." So as the conflict develops, mainly between Portia and Bassanio, Antonio comes up with a solution. He will be the guarantor of Bassanio's future fidelity. And where previously he had placed his life at stake for Bassanio, this time he ups the stakes. Now he places his eternal soul at risk. He says, "I dare be bound, my soul upon the forfeit." It's only at this point that Portia reveals that she's had the wedding ring all along. And then she pulls out a letter that says Antonio's ships have been miraculously saved from the waves. And then she says somewhat mysteriously, "You shall not know by what strange accident I chanced on this letter." Why? Why should he not know? In fact, why should we not know? She's clearly known this information for quite a long time. No messengers have arrived since they've been on stage, so why didn't she divulge that earlier? My reading is that this scene is a power battle, where she has to win the battle to be the most important person in Bassanio's life. She has to put Antonio in his place. But even so, I think there is still a sense of unease at the end of the play. Is the situation with Antonio really fully resolved? Will Bassanio and Portia really be happily married? Or will the shadow of Antonio loom large over their marriage? And despite the fact that we haven't seen Shylock since Act 4, his shadow still haunts the play. The way that he was stripped of his possessions and stripped of his cultural identity is disturbing and not easily forgotten, and shouldn't be easily forgotten. Of course, much of this can and will be interpreted in different ways by different actors and directors. which is why I encourage you to study and to see this play. It can, like all great works of art, be repeatedly enjoyed with pleasure. Give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and subscribe now so that you never miss any of my future posts.